Traditionally in the video game industry, deep discounts or multiple platforms are needed to really achieve those everlasting sales across different titles. So what we've seen recently is that, of course, Microsoft has kind of went in on Xbox and also PC when it comes to their game development. Sony is now going all in with PlayStation titles, not completely all in, but definitely developing their own PlayStation PC label for PlayStation games coming over to PC, and they've also revealed sales numbers in the millions for various different PlayStation 4 games that have been brought over to the PC and have had success at $50 a pop. So the move is definitely going and trending towards PC for the other console manufacturers. But what about Nintendo? Why haven't they made the move? What's going on with them? People have asked multiple times, man, Nintendo would make so much on PC. What are they doing at this point? Well, I think we've finally got the visual representation. We already had it before. We know that Nintendo wants to do integrated hardware and software, and it's key, but I think that this chart will definitely prove once and for all, at least explain a bit more why Nintendo's not going to go in on PC anytime soon. But before we get into that, please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and let's go ahead and get right into this. So in Nintendo's recent investor meeting, Nintendo broke down the quote-unquote evergreen titles, and we'll describe what that is in just a bit. And this was an assortment of titles that continue to sell quite a bit. Now, how Nintendo describes evergreen is that well after the launch of the game. So after the launch period, after the hype kind of dies down, to where most of the time you'll see other third-party games and even first-party PlayStation and Xbox games pretty much get discounts or be dead at retail or go down dramatically when it comes to sales after the first month or so. Nintendo titles continue, or these evergreen titles continue to sell years, months, whatever after release. So for the most part, you're consistently making money on them. And on top of that, they're not discounted down to really cheap prices in order to cut down on your profit. So Nintendo calls that an evergreen type of game. So as you can see right here, Nintendo listed a multitude of games that are in this evergreen category, from The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Splatoon 2, Luigi's Mansion, Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury, also Ring Fit Adventure. All of these games continue to sell continue to sell even years after launch. You can sell 1.7 million units of The Legend of Zelda at near full price or pretty much full price. You can sell 3.2 million copies of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. You can sell 1.6 million copies of Super Mario Party, Pokemon Sword and Shield, and another 700,000 units of Luigi's Mansion, games that came out years ago at this point. So is there a need for Nintendo to branch out and make extra revenue when they can consistently sell their own games on their hardware and convince most of the casual, or I would say expanded audience gamers, not the people that are hardcore watching every single video online, looking at everything, complaining about everything, but just the casual consumer out there just looking to play a game every now and then, that can continue to convince them to buy these games well after launch and also buy the system that it's on officially. So I think that this is probably the main reason in a visual representation right here, because Nintendo has talked about evergreen status of games before. This isn't something new, but to actually list it here, looking at sell through of the evergreen titles from April to September, okay? This is just those months, the breakdown from there, to have these type of sales across a multitude of titles. There's no other first-party developer that can say this. There's no other first-party developer that can put up this many first-party games from that long ago, from all the way from launch, right? Because if you remember, guys, remember, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is a launch title. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is a launch title. That is a launch window. Splatoon 2, launch window. Super Mario Odyssey came out a year within the Switch being released. A lot of these games aren't even a year out from when the Switch was launched, and they're still selling in the millions of unit range. So Nintendo has that confidence to continue to, one, invest back into it, which we're seeing the $900 million investment, but also two, not really have to worry about expanding to anything else because they have what they need. They have these evergreen games that can continue selling and bringing in revenue to continue driving more game development in all of these series. So I think that it's very important to know maybe that is the biggest reason or deterrent for Nintendo, at least, why they have it. Now, there's other things as well. It's not just this. Obviously, Nintendo wants to make sure that they have their own system. They want to be in control. Nintendo's kind of crazy when it comes to that and their games. I mean, we've seen it before. Not saying that I necessarily agree with everything when it comes to that. I'm just giving you their mindset with it when it comes to Nintendo first-party games. And looking at this range and looking at what's going on here with this software, I'm counting up 13 different games from this April to September that can move 500,000 units or more minimum, with the lowest being Splatoon 2 at about 400,000 units, but everything is 400,000 units and up in those months with full revenue, or just about, because none of these were on big sales. We saw some, so we can't sit here and say that it's not going to be all of them that don't have some sales here and there. Maybe the eShop, there was like the Blockbuster sale and stuff like that, so there's probably some of them, but for the most part, they're not discounted to $20, making way less when it comes to it. They're making pretty much the maximum that you could make, all things considered. That is just unheard of in the industry. No other first-party developer, manufacturer, console, whatever the case is, can say that. Everybody has to discount these games in one way or another to get that, and that's why you're seeing Xbox go in on Game Pass. That's why you're seeing them go in on PC gaming. That's why you're seeing PlayStation go in on PC gaming, because they know that after a bit of time, those games just get discounted and they can't make anywhere near as much money off of them. And for those that are saying, oh, well, no, they just want to give the consumer the discount. Okay, if that was the case, then they wouldn't be releasing their games on PC for $50, near the $60 price point. They would just continue having it at $20, where you would see God of War or Days Gone, but they're releasing those for $50. So they want to make that extra profit on there. They want to have it to where they can make more money on the game, because it's not enough when you sell your game for $60, and yeah, people rush out there and buy it in the first month or so, but then after that, sales dip down so much to the point to where you're selling it for $20, sometimes even less. That is not good enough for the investment that PlayStation is putting into these games, which is exactly the reason why they're developing this PC label, to bring over those old games that aren't selling, that's not really evergreen for PlayStation, or being sold at such a low amount, and jacking up the price to $50 over and getting more money on that and making it up in that way, profiting in that. So I think that's my essential breakdown. Not that PlayStation's method is bad. I think that it's actually smart that they're doing that for their business model, because they have that third-party support that a lot of the expanded PlayStation audience buys most of the time. That's just the way it is, you know, and that's okay. That's how the business is done over there. Microsoft has their business and doing the Game Pass and doing, you know, PC, and everything's across both, and heck, even Xbox One getting a ton of love as well. So I think that it works for each one of these companies. But if you're asking me why I think Nintendo doesn't go in on PC, this is the visual representation of why it's not happening at this point. Now, if Nintendo ever gets to a point to where they don't have evergreen status, to where their games are dropping off quickly and retailers just have copies left over, and it's not really highly sought after from, I would say, collectors or anything, then maybe you see them go over to PC one of these days. But at this point, when you have this many games that can sell this much amount years after release, 4 years or so, 5 years after release like this, you're not going to see that move over. They're going to keep riding with what they've got at this point, and to me, it makes complete sense. But I think probably one of the most impressive things on here is the fact that you can have a game like Luigi's Mansion 3, 700,000 units sold in that past, you know, from April to September, and that game's over 10 million units, and Nintendo didn't even mention that it hit 10 million units. That's how you know when things are just going so smoothly for you, that a 10 million unit seller is just like, oh yeah, it hit 10 million, but we're not really going to talk about it too much from when we last reported on it. That is how its true evergreen is. They just keep it moving with these different types of games, or even something like Super Mario Odyssey, that game being as old as it is and still selling 1 million units in that time range. There's no other company in the world at this point that can do something like this with this many titles in terms of first party that are this old. It's insane to see that. Nobody else has that. It's a very unique thing, and it's something that Nintendo somehow has fostered over the years and years and years that they've been making games, but I think it's because of the iconic franchises that they do have. The Mario, obviously the Zelda, Animal Crossing, a lot of this stuff has Mario in it, or Legend of Zelda, you know, or Pokemon. It's these big legacy franchises, but also stuff like Ring Fit Adventure that's getting into the mix here. Super Smash Brothers as well getting into the mix too. So it's good to see this for Nintendo's end, because I think that it is being invested back into the games, and I think that we're going to see big dividends in terms of how Nintendo transitions from this generation and what they're doing with the Switch, finishing off and into the next gen. So it's going to be interesting to see how everything just shakes out and what games are going down. So what are your thoughts when it comes to Nintendo's evergreen titles, and my thought on Nintendo and PC and why it's not happening anytime soon at least? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and we will see you for the next video. Peace.